Hey everyone, hello from New York. Thank you for joining the Integrated Projects team and My name is Jose. I'm the founder and managing director at Integrated Projects. Today, we're excited to share an innovative service for architects and engineers to drastically improve their as-built workflows. We recognize everyone's either ending their workday or in the middle of the work or just starting their workday. So we'll try to stay as concise and as informative and to the point as we can. After listening to the presentation, you'll come out with an understanding of the problems an architect or engineer faces getting accurate existing conditions of their project and a proposed solution. And perhaps most importantly, why the solution is transformative in the way we capture, convert, visualize, and connect building data across project stakeholders. A quick note, please do share your questions or notes in the comment section. We'll try our best to answer these at the end or via email as a follow-up. So today you get me as a speaker, but it's the incredible minds on the team that power the design, the operations, the engineering, product development, and data science behind our services. We're a small team of 10 with a global partner network that spans about 8 different time zones, bringing the best BIM specialists and reality capture technicians under one mission. What unites us is an obsession with the built environment, and particularly the data that's trapped inside the walls of our buildings. Big picture, we live and work in buildings. We spend the majority of our time in buildings. For many of us on this call, we work on buildings, but we know very little about the data that's trapped in the walls. And yet, we see this data as foundational to solve the 3 most urgent challenges we face: the race to decarbonize our environment, the race to provide accessible and affordable housing for all, and the changing paradigms in the places in which we work. For context, there's an estimated 1.6 billion buildings of all types across the world, from homes to stadiums to skyscrapers. And these structures contribute upwards of 40% of all emissions globally. I did basic math. Even if we take the most conservative estimates that scientists are giving us, that means we have until 2050, or less than 30 years, to remove all CO2 from our buildings. That's more than 53 million buildings a year, or 146,000 buildings a day. 146,000 buildings a day that require us to upgrade those buildings. We're not even close. But if we were to achieve this, it'd require an interconnected network of owners, design professionals, contractors, financing providers, federal, state, city governments, and systemic lockstep. These challenges are too large for any profession, and certainly any one company. We play a small part in a much larger, more complex puzzle to help owners identify what they own so they can effectively upgrade their buildings. We use a simple 4-part framework to capture, convert, visualize, and connect those spaces. Capture refers to reality capture, using 3D scan technology to accurately depict a space digitally. Convert refers to turning those 3D scans into information models, that is, the files that can easily be used by an architect or an engineer in industry-accepted formats like Revit, CAD, and IFC. Visualize. Did you know 99% of our owners and non-technical clients will never actually open up a Revit or a CAD file, nor do they care to. So we're investing a lot of our resources in building visualization software to abstract the complexities away and give users the information they need in an accessible way. And finally, connect. Once a building has been digitized, it's been effectively brought online. This means the ones, the zeros, the geometric data from the building can be relayed, connected via APIs from one stakeholder to the next. So today, I want to speak about the first 3 pillars. And we'll start with capture and convert. 3D scan technology is nothing new. BIM is nothing new. And scan-to-BIM certainly is nothing new. And yet, I'd suggest the careful and systemic integration of these 2 is the key to accurately benchmarking the built environment. Today, the fastest and most efficient way to document your space is by 3D scanning. And depending on your space, you have a few options. If you're scanning a small space, like a home or an apartment, the latest iPhone Pro has enough LiDAR power to accurately digitize. This is a profound innovation that cuts the cost of capture and allows almost anyone to effectively scan their own place. There's an incredible amount of new startups working in the space now. If you're scanning a medium-sized space, that is anything from 2,000 to 30,000 square feet. It's a pretty big range, but terrestrial-based scanners, that is terrestrial scanners with tripods, are great solutions. Incumbent companies like Leica and Faro have been doing this for some time. And most recently, Matterport has brought a prosumer grade camera that holds its own in this category. If you're scanning a large or even a super, super large space, that is anything from 30,000 square feet up to millions of square feet, this is where mobile LiDAR really shines. The challenge, of course, is that these devices are upwards of $30, $50, $80,000 sometimes, limiting its reach to professional technicians. Either way, to digitize 146,000 buildings a day, we're going to need an all hands on deck, Avengers assemble kind of approach to achieve our goals to decarbonize the built environment. To add to this, scanning is the first step of a two-step process. The outputs that these scan devices create are point clouds. And with these point clouds, we can model and train deep learning algorithms to create architectural, mechanical, and furniture 3D components. To use an analogy, point clouds are like the crude oil. BIM is refined oil. You can't have refined oil without extracting it first as crude oil. Similarly, we can't have accurate BIM without accurately capturing the raw 3D scan data. The problem: architects and engineers are often being asked to perform design services on bad, inaccurate, or non-existent existing conditions data of a building. This means getting accurate plans falls on the laps of designers, even though that's not where their value lies. Here's what one BIMIT user tells us, echoing what we've heard across the entire profession. Creating existing conditions drawings is not a value add task for a designer. It's not why a client would hire us, and yet it's a necessary step to move the design process forward when starting a new project. BIMIT helps us maximize the project time we're given to focus on design exploration, not wasting 30% of our billable hours just creating existing condition plans. A typical workflow for an architect or an engineer that has already 3D scanned their space looks something like this. They have to make a decision. Do I model this project in-house and waste our billable hours? Do I outsource this to a scan a BIM shop and hope to get a clean model back? Assuming they outsource, they're now trapped in a typical workflow of procuring a scan a BIM service provider. They have to jump through the hoops of contact forms, emails, intro meetings, scoping out the project, defining it, getting an estimate, negotiating that estimate, negotiating the contract terms, and finally sending your scan to get modeled. Before you've even started the work, you spent 1 to 2 weeks just trying to get it off the ground. Of course, the actual work time varies depending on the size and complexity of the project. And finally, you'll receive a Revit and CAD file, so you can then start to design on top of accurate information. It's grueling and certainly not scalable. We launched BIMIT. It's our aim to provide the simplest way to convert your 3D scan to BIM. We took a 1 to 2 week procurement process and simplified it down to 3 minutes. We're improving delivery times for even the most complex projects to be delivered in just under a week. And the best part is that the final deliverables include not just Revit, CAD, and IFC, but a browser-based experience to share and quantify your space from any device. To start, you could just go to our website, upload your registered point cloud, select your scopes. You'll notice that even for complex industrial spaces like mechanical rooms or boiler rooms, we've created its own category that can be toggled on. You'll notice we provide upfront pricing and an estimated delivery time, so you can budget even ahead of your project. At checkout, we present your BIMIT order summary and a simple and secure way to pay, 50% upfront and 50% upon completion of project. We even created a 1-hour cancellation window for a full refund of the initial deposit in case you change your mind. When the project's been complete, you'll receive an email. There, you'll be able to download your existing conditions files, as well as launch the BIMIT viewer. It's pretty magical. It took a lot of hard work for the team just to make it this simple, but here we are. And now, based off the scope selections, your BIMIT project can take on a few different configurations. For those just needing the architectural backgrounds, you'll have the option of simply converting your architectural scope, essentially your base building. For those needing furniture and mechanical systems, you can include those as add-ons as well. Of course, there's a caveat here. We can only model what's clearly visible within the point cloud. So here's where the nuance and the specs behind the 3D scanning camera you might use does matter. So for example, I probably would not suggest 3D scanning a 30,000 square foot office with your iPhone. Your point cloud will likely have too much drift and misalignment to be a reliable input for BIMIT. When you unpack BIMIT, you'll receive the following assets and optional scopes. All BIMIT orders come with Revit, CAD, and IFC as a standard. If you requested MEP scopes, your order will also come with reflected ceiling plan DWGs as well. All projects will include the BIMIT viewer, and coming soon, all projects will include a standardized location report providing floor plan PDFs. For those wanting to dive into level development tables, we've made those available within the BIMIT order page itself. These spec docs help clarify how we've defined those scopes and the respective detail levels. So if you're wondering, for example, whether light fixtures fall under the architectural or furniture scopes, you'll find your answers there. Collectively, BIMIT aims to address some of the most basic but fundamental challenges that we face. It helps get accurate information on your space in an easily readable file format. It helps visualize that space with anyone on any device, and it helps quantify those spaces and the equipment within that space. We've got a lot of work to do, but this has proven to be a good start. To date, BIMIT has digitized all kinds of spaces, from small homes to super large retail spaces and everything in between. You'll notice that despite the space type, whether it's a gym, an office, a data center, a warehouse, we've paid close attention to how we standardize those outputs in a consistent and predictable way. All scopes are delivered at an LOD 200. So that's just industry speak for the level of development or detail within our 3D models. So to be clear, our BIMIT models are modeled accurately per the registered point cloud provided to us by the client. This means all model elements are graphically represented within the model as a generic system, object, and assembly with approximate quantities, sizes, shapes, locations, and orientation. Our aim with BIMIT is to get your project team on the 50-yard line. We'll never replace field verification, but by following good scan practices, by using the appropriate 3D scan devices, and using BIMIT, you'll get construction-grade results. In 2022, BIMIT's digitized over 1,600 buildings of all types. It's a 300% increase from last year. It's absolutely humbling, the milestone, and I think that it speaks to the broader urgency of accurate information in efforts to solve more urgent challenges. But this milestone is a drop in the bucket. In Q4, we averaged approximately 6 buildings a day. Even if we were to grow that to 60,000, or even more modest, of 60 buildings per day, it might be great for a self-funded startup like us, but a blip in the bucket in the global mandate to digitize and decarbonize 146,000 buildings a day. But of course, we have to start somewhere. So today, BIMIT delivers in hours, not weeks or months. It's got low, predictable costs. It provides 3-in-1 services from architecture, furniture, and MEP. It provides the groundwork for accurate building data and dimensions. It's delivered at a standard LOD 200 level, and it's reviewed and QA/QC'd by our senior architects and engineers before the project ever gets back to you. So after the call, I'd love to extend a special partner code that can be used at checkout for a first-time discount. Be on the lookout in your inbox for that, as well as a recording of what we just covered. And so I'd like to wrap up with just a short preview of our roadmap. What's ahead, I think, is a little more exciting than even what we've been able to accomplish so far. One of the stats that we're most proud of is that 86% of all BIMIT users that have used our service once have used it twice, or in some cases, hundreds of times. As users go from a single project to multiple projects, we're excited to roll out the next generation of IPX next year in 2023. From IPX, users are going to be able to request new services, view, share, download, quantify, and connect their spaces with anyone securely. I'll add this. The number one comment from our owner-operator clients sounds something like, now that I have my building digitized, can I find an architect to redesign my 7th floor? Or can I find an engineer to help me with local law 97 compliance? Or can I overlay my IoT sensor data on top of your interface? This is going to take the form of a marketplace of services that can be built on BIMIT. We're actually taking early applications from design firms, prop tech companies, and other services that may want to add value to our existing BIMIT owner and operator users. A super exciting time. But with that, we'll wrap it up. If you made it to the end, I'd like to thank you for your time and invite you to check out BIMIT. If it's your first time using it, encourage you to DM me directly. If you have any questions, I'd love to connect, hear how we might help your team digitize one space or many spaces. In the coming weeks, you're going to see us put out even more information on how even more people can use BIMIT to aid in the larger effort to digitize the built environment. So for now, I'll sign off. I do appreciate everyone's time, hoping everyone has a restful holidays. Thank you.